That's the tune Moonglow, and I'm going to teach you how to play that chord melody arrangement of it in this lesson. First things first, you're probably going to want to familiarise yourself with the tune, so if you don't know Moonglow, I've put some links below in the description of various people doing it. It is a jazz standard. Lots and lots of people have recorded and performed this song. So I've selected a few nice ones. I've tried to stick with ones that don't have the vocal, just so that we can focus on the melody and the instrumental side of it, which is what we're going to be doing. Now, as with most jazz standards, you'll find everybody plays it a little bit differently. They all put their own character on it. What I played at the beginning isn't quite what we're going to do to begin with from the tablature. I'm going to teach you a kind of skeletal version of it so that we know where to go. And then we'll look at some ways that we can make it sound a little bit jazzier, a little bit more swingy and interesting. We're going to break it down into 3 sections. There's a kind of intro riff that comes back every time we go around the A section. And then there's the A section itself. And then there's the bridge, or the B section. The intro riff is really, really simple. It involves 2 fingers and they stay in pretty much the same shape all the time. It's only 4 bars long. The trick with this is the timing. It goes like this. So what I'm doing with my left hand is I'm holding down at the 2nd fret, the 1st string and the 3rd string. And that's my first chord, which is the G6. The next chord, I slide those down to the 1st fret, nice and easy. And then I've got a G diminished 7. And then I'm going to lift those off and play that A minor 7 chord. Then I'm going to put those back on the 1st fret. And then I'm going to go back to the 2nd fret again. So just have a go at that. 2nd fret, 1st fret, open, 1st fret, 2nd fret. And when you go for the open, don't take your fingers right off. Just lift them off enough, but keep them hovering over the strings because they're going to go back there. The hard thing is the timing. It doesn't start on beat 1. It starts on the and afterwards. I'll count it out and play it for you nice and slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1, 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1, 2 and. The first chord of the pattern and the last chord of the pattern push. That means that they get there a little bit early and drive the song along. A good way to get these into your head is to sing them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Da 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 3, 4, 1. Da 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 da. And you can do this as many times as you want. So that can loop round. You can do it twice or 4 times. It's up to you. Now let's have a look at the A section. This is where the melody really kicks in. The chords we have here are C major 7, which is just 1 finger at the 2nd fret of the 1st string. Okay. Then we have this rather unusual named chord, which is C minor major 7, or the C with a lowercase m and then an uppercase M and a 7. That finger stays there. The next 2 fingers hold down the middle 2 strings at the 3rd fret. Lovely jazzy sounding chord. From there, we go to a very familiar chord, the G6 that we started on, and then we go down to this chord, which is an A9, which is just like my G6, but I'm going to lower the note on the C string. So let me show you how the whole thing looks. C major 7, C minor major 7, G6, A9. So just get used to that little pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Go around that a few times. That's the chord sequence for the bulk of the A section. Now let's fit the melody in. And we're really fortunate here because the melody kind of fits in between the chords. And it only has 2 notes for the bulk of the melody. And they're here. The 3rd fret of the 2nd string and the 4th fret of the 3rd string. And we're not going to play them by jumping between these notes like this. We're going to hold that shape down and use this hand to play third string, second string, third string, second string, like that. And I should say, at the beginning, I played the whole thing with my thumb. And it works really nicely just with your thumb. So you don't have to worry about fingers, which finger to pluck with. Just for the beginning, at least, stick to your thumb. Now we're going to put that in between some of the chords, like this. The C major 7. Then we move to that little shape and go. Play each one. And then again. And then we go to our C minor major 7. And I also play one strum and then the first string. Don't move my left hand. It's just because there are 2 syllables in the lyric line at that moment. So get that bit to start with. And then we do it again, but with different chord shapes. So we go to our G6, to our A9. So practice that one. G6, A9. Then we take off our index finger and we're on C major 7th again. Do it again. And this time it changes a bit. We go for this chord, which is like a 2-finger D7, but we're adding this melody note here. Strictly speaking, that makes it a D13, but really it's just a D7 with this melody note. And we play that extra note on the end as well. So we strum the chord and then just play the first string. And then straight back into our intro riff. That's one pass through the A section. Now, because a lot of jazz standards have an A section, which you could call a verse and or a chorus, and a B section that sometimes people might call a bridge or a middle 8, the terminology's changed over time. But the point is, we have the section we've learned, the A section. When we do the A section again, then we do something different, so we'll call that the B section. And then we do the A section again at the end, which means once we've learned the A section, we've learned 3/4 of the tune. Let's go through the A section a couple of times. We'll tag that little riff on the beginning as an intro. See if you can keep up and follow along with the tab. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Here we go, C major 7, melody, G6, C major 7, then our intro riff, 1, and. Let's do it again. Little riff again. 1 and. Wow, we're halfway through already. We've got to the bridge. The bridge has lots of space, and we're going to look at how we can fill up some of that space later on. But just for this kind of map of the song, we're going to play a G7, but not this G7. We're going to play a 4-fingered G7 at the 3rd fret. Now, if you haven't played this one before, it might be worth taking a little bit of time just to get your fingers used to going to this shape. I'll map it out for you now. I start with the 2nd string, 3rd fret with my index finger. Then I put my 2nd finger on the 4th fret of the G string. Now notice that's just like an F chord shape, only 1, 2 frets higher. So your fingers probably already know how to do an F shape. So think F, and those 2 fingers will most likely do as they're told. These 2 fingers then fill in the gaps on the 1st and 3rd strings at the 5th fret. My ring finger goes on the 3rd string and my little finger in the same fret on the 1st string. So I end up with this shape. It's important we play it there for a couple of reasons. One, the melody note is under our little finger at the 5th fret. And we wouldn't get that if we played the G7 down there. But also there's a very distinctive sliding movement where we're going to go from G7 to E7. And we can do that without taking our fingers off the strings. So the first thing to do is play our G7, but be aware it's going to last for 2 whole bars. But towards the end of that, we're going to put our slide in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and. So let's do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2 and slide and slide. And then the next chord is going to be 1 fret lower than that, and our index finger falls off the end and we land on that E7 right on the strong beat of the next bar on beat 1. That's going to take a bit of time to get the timing right again, and with lots of jazz standards, a lot of the magic is in the timing and the swing. All I'm doing for that is going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. I stay there, 2 and slide down, 3 and slide down, 4 and slide down one more, 1 on the next beat. Now that E7 also lasts for 2 bars, but this time we haven't got to fit a slide in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we go to an A9 shape that we've had before in the A section. And we strum it and then just play some extra notes on the first string. Da, 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 da. Again, we're just making sure we're getting the right rhythm for the melody. Then we have this little run. Don't panic about this, it's based around an E minor chord shape. Let me show you. If I start, and I can either do it 2 ways, I can start with my E minor a fret low, play my 3rd string, slide up, and then just play the other strings, like this. Slide, then. So there's not a lot of movement that has to go on. If you don't want to do that slide, you can always play the 3rd fret with your 2nd finger, put your ring finger down on the 4th fret, and as you do that, just hop your 2nd finger across. But I think it's easier just to slide it up. And that leads us into that chord we called a D13 earlier on, which is really just our 2-finger D7, but with our ring finger also down on the 2nd fret. And then we have this little run down to the very familiar G diminished 7th chord we had right back in the intro riff. And then those same 2 fingers can just hop across to play a simple 2-finger D7. And it's good to play that simple 2-finger D7 because we need the open 1st string as our melody note. From this point, we're just going to play the A section again. When you get to that little riff at the end, really, you could think of that as the beginning of a new cycle round the tune. So when I get to that last bit, I'm thinking I'm back at the start of the tune now, and then I can go straight back into do the whole thing all over again as many times through as I want to. When I finally get to the end of the tune and I want to stop, I've given you a little ending that we can put on here. So we do the first one of those, and then we get this, and then this big odd sounding chord on the end. A lot of jazz musicians love to have a kind of big, dense, tense sounding chord on the end. I'll show you how that one goes in a second. First of all, that little riff that we're doing to lead up to that chord. I'm starting with my 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the C string. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go backwards to the 1st fret, then back to the 2nd, then my next finger to the 3rd, then I go to the E string open, and then 1st, and then 2nd, and then 3rd. So I'm playing all of the frets on those 2 middle strings. I'm going 2nd, 1st, 2nd, 3rd on the C string, open 2nd string, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and then I play that nice chord on the end. Again, like the riff, The magic is in the timing. Just like the riff, it doesn't start on the 1, it starts on the and. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. And that means we land on that 3rd fret of our E string on 1. And that note is G, and we're in the key of G, and that feels like we've hit home. But we need something else on the end. A way to think of it is an upside down E minor. So there's your E minor chord shape. If you leave this finger where it is and swap your 1st and 3rd fingers, so the little diagonal line, instead of going that way, goes that way. So I'm on the 2nd fret C string, 3rd fret E string, and the 4th fret of my A string. Let's put that last little bit together. We'll play the intro riff pattern that we're going to end on once. Then we'll go into that little run and then hit that lovely big chord. Nice and slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Great, you've got everything you need to be able to play the whole of Moonglow chord melody style. So what I recommend you do is spend a little bit of time with the tablature, go back to the beginning of this and see if you can play along with me. Don't worry too much if I'm putting extra little strums in, because that'll help you keep time. You just focus on playing the part that's in the tab and let me fill in the gaps. Talking of filling in the gaps, we're now going to have a look at how we can make this just flow a little bit more, sound a little bit more jazzy. So don't move on to this bit until you're pretty solid with where your fingers are going to go and you can play that skeletal version of it pretty confidently. First of all, there are lots of spaces in this, and we don't want to fill up everything, but there are times when it would just be too empty, given that I haven't got a drummer and a double bass player with me to carry the tune along. The intro I could just leave like that. But if I want to fill that big gap, I could just brush my G string open. So I get da, 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 ba, bum, bum. Just to fill the space and give it something happening and pushing the rhythm along. In the main part of the melody, there's not too much room, but there's a big gap there, and there's a big gap there, and there's a big gap there, and then we're back into the riff again. I could just strum the chord I'm holding, but very gently, and maybe just catch a couple of strings. I don't want it to sound like the melody part. I'm trying to give the impression of a louder part playing the tune, and then another person behind me somewhere gently strumming the chords. So there's a lot of dynamics involved in this. So you could do this. Just starting to gently put something in there to keep the listener following along with the rhythm. Now in the B section, we have that G7 up here. There's still a long gap before that slide. A couple of things you could do is you could hit the first one nice and loud, that's the melody note, and then just strum quietly. And then the same on the E7. So we hear the first one because that's where the melody note is, and then just keep the rhythm going. Okay, so just filling in the gaps a little bit, just not overpowering it, but keeping it rolling along. There's another thing you can do if you fancy it. On that G7, instead of going, you could do this. And all I'm doing there is a tremolo with my thumb Though some people do it with the pad of their finger, and some people do it with a triple stroke. You can try different things there just for effect. So something for you to get stuck into. Go and grab the tablature if you haven't already, and listen back to me right at the beginning of this video. See if you can play along and just start to find your way around the tune, and then when you're solid with that, start to try and bring it to life. Hope you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.